Everyone say hi to Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, Jennifer. Hi.
Yeah, she's the video camera right there.
Oh,
Hadn't figured that
I was agreeing.
This is live. This is not live. This is recorded. But I don't know. It doesn't make any difference, except that she's not actually staring at it right now. I guess would be the difference. All right. So let's go ahead and have a word of prayer, and we'll continue with our warm up, and then get on to our activities here for today. I think I can take this off now. Lord, we thank you so much for your goodness to us, your grace to us, your love for us. Thank you that you've given us leading in large terms from the principles and commands in your word, and that you lead us day by day and moment by moment through your Holy Spirit, which lives within us. And I pray that you would help us each to be in tune to the Holy Spirit as we go throughout our day, not only for decisions, but just for attitudes and actions, and being able to live in a way that honors and pleases you, and shows your truth and your love to others around us. Pray for Jennifer today. Please heal her, get her back with us as soon as possible, and pray for protection health-wise for the rest of the young people here throughout the semester, and for me. And we thank you for another week with a day of rest. In Jesus' name, amen. Yes. Oh, in everything give thanks, right? Although that means we're going to miss our percussion ensemble day. We can have it today. Well, seems I already have a whole presentation of objectives that are totally different from that. We'll just go with what I have planned. Yes, we could, but we won't. That's an interesting idea. I should look ahead and see, because we're missing 2 of those. And within like 3 weeks. We're missing 2 of our Fridays within about 3 weeks here. So maybe I could make one of the Mondays a Friday and kind of catch us up, because we're getting kind of shortchanged on our Friday classes here toward the end. That's an excellent idea. See, you're always getting good ideas from your students, especially when they're college age and music ed majors and all that. You know, the cream of the cream of the crop. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and continue with our warm-up here. And most of you got through the first few exercises, but let's go ahead and just review together some of the rudiments. And just in the manner that I've showed you before, slow to fast to slow on each one, and I'll just be kind of glancing around, making sure everybody's doing the hand position I've showed you, and using wrists, and all those good technique and posture aspects. Yeah, that drum is a little bit high for you, isn't it? Yeah, so if you do play an instrument that's high for you, just pick your elbows up a little and it'll make everything in the right place. Not quite as comfortable, but it works. Here we go. Single stroke roll. You're standing back from the practice pen. This semester, I usually introduce the idea of finger control. You've played snare drum long enough and gotten used to the wrist control. What advanced players actually do is do some wrist, but actually do a lot of the up and down motion with your fingers. So a good way to get the feel of this is to grab your stick at the tip. Everybody do that for me right now, as if you're going to play with it. And see how it just rests on each of your fingertips underneath. Okay? Then you're just going to kind of bring it up against the bottom of your hand, and then see if you can just kind of pop, 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 where you're not grabbing with it, but you're just kind of getting the stick in motion. So that's the basic feel. Then the next step is to kind of drop it, and then see if you can kind of keep it going with those fingers that same way. So it'll help if you lean your wrist forward a little bit, so that your stick isn't up against your hand. If it's up against your hand, it won't bounce, it'll smash it. So kind of lean your hand forward and just kind of bounce like that. So your hand is turned over, everything is exactly the same. It's just kind of in a forward down position as your fingers are popping the bottom. Yes, Dave?
Is it going to feel like the majority of that is done with the middle finger? Because I kind of feel like it's all my middle finger.
Yeah, once they all get lined up, it'll be all of them. But more is with the middle finger than the others. So just make sure that it's sitting kind of on the tips of each of your fingers. And then once they're all in that position, then they all kind of contribute. But as you get faster and faster, less of it becomes with your pinky, and then it kind of moves front to back. But what we're doing right now is just practicing the concept. See if you can do it with all of your fingers. The other hand too. longer, it's a good next step. So your thumb across from first knuckle, first finger curls underneath while the others touch, and it's doing this. Hop, 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 hop. So you can first finger, my first finger's kind of staying still, and the others are making the motion go. So you can play around with that. That's how advanced drummers get really exact. For instance, open rolls. Doing just a little bit of that finger control to control each of the hits on the open rolls, and so it sounds less smooth and more articulated when they do that. So anyway, and then all these sticking patterns like paradiddles, a lot of that's done with the fingers. Your wrists are going up and down a little bit, a lot of it's fingers. So anyway, I just wanted you to know that's a thing, and some of you may want to play around with that. Let's go on. Let's practice our closed rolls. So now we're going to really focus on our second finger, pushing the stick in and letting it bounce 8 times each time. Ready, go. Now, Amanda, make sure that you're not craning your hands out like this. Just let them be natural and relaxed in the middle of your arms, not pushed out to one side or the other. Some people's naturally push out more than others, but just make sure, especially when you're doing something that's forceful, our tendency and your students' tendency is to kind of jack it out and do that type of thing. And I just want you to keep the rotation here really relaxed instead of pushed out like that and more tight. Okay?
So is this right the way I have it now?
Yeah. All right, and part of it may have been you might have been turning your hands over, which also makes that straight. So just keep them palms to the floor and center. Okay, now let's try the open roll, starting with stroking each of the right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left. And then when you get as fast as you can, cut the speed of your strokes in half and do bounces instead. So it should sound like this. Here's the strokes. And then I'll go to bounces at the same speed. And back and forth. Okay, so practice that shift and then do it slow and fast. Good job. All right. Okay, now slow, fast, slow. Ready, go. Right. Good. So what I'll be listening for, once again, is mainly the transfer from singles to doubles and back from doubles to singles. And see how smoothly you can get that. Let's go to plans. Oh, question?
Was that you saying you're going to be watching for that? Is that part of the exam?
Yes. I'll select 5 of these rudiments, and I'll just tell you now that both your multiple bounce and your open double bounce rolls will be 2 of those 5 rudiments. Okay, here we go. We are on plans. Oh, let's do paradiddles. We haven't done that for a while. Let's say the pattern once. Ready, say. Right, left, 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 left. Ready, play. Good. Keep your strokes low. Remember on the snare drum if you're doing this. And I wasn't even on, it's gonna be way too loud. Okay, now let's do it slow and fast and slow. Ready, go. Right, left. Transition speed up to whatever is comfortable. Faster than slower. Yeah, if you get off, then just start it again and keep going. We're not trying to stay together as far as keeping our strokes together. We're just kind of doing an activity simultaneously here. All right, and now let's go to flams. Right flam, left flam, ready, play. Now gradually speed it up. this big height difference between the stick is when you're first learning, just so you can get the coordination. And then if you're in marching band or rudimental drumming, where they line up the angles of all their sticks and are judged on that. But other than that, just make sure one hits before the other. Okay? Let's see. Last week we learned flam taps. Who can tell me the sticking pattern for flam taps? How would we say that? I forgot to change my time here on the computer for when it shuts off. Whoops, wrong password too. How do we play flam taps? What is the pattern there?
Right, left.
So we would say right flam, that means left, right. Right flam, right.
Right.
Left flam, left. Okay, so let's do that slowly as we say it. Ready, go. Right flam, right. Left flam, left. Right flam, right. Left flam, left. Play around with that on your own now. It's amazing. The high stroke, big second. Yep. Let's do that together. Everybody do a hand check. Palms toward the floor. Thumb and first knuckle. A
Question.
little bit of space in there, yes.
When you say right flam,
Right
is the
flam
right
means
high?
you always name the flam by the main note, not the grace. Okay, so a right flam starts with a left grace and a right hit.
So we're doing right, right, left, left.
Yep, right, right, left, left. Right flam right, left flam left. Okay, here we go. Right flam right, flam left, flam right, flam left, flam right. Graduate speed and according to your ability. So today we're going to learn, before we go on to some of the harder flam rudiments, which I'll actually introduce later in the lesson today, we're going to learn drags. Drags are simply a double bounce and then a hit instead of a single bounce. So left, left, right. And then right, right, left. So it's like a double bounce roll and then a hit. Okay, try that. That's it. Just make sure the last one doesn't hit twice. Very well. Try the other way now. Turn your hand out. Relax your pinky. Yep, good. That's it. Try the other way. Yeah, listen to Molly go over there. That's it. All right.
Can't hear
So let's
anything
try
else.
that together. Ready, go. Oh, and I forgot to say, we're going to alternate every time. You can't do a bunch of rights and a bunch of lefts, but for this drill, we're alternating. So right drag, left drag. Ready, go. So all I'll say about this is you want to be pretty tight. You want the grace notes to be pretty tight to the main note. It's not. It's kind of like one main sound. That type of thing. So it's fast double bounces. But for right now, just get used to it. That's what you're eventually going for. Okay, good. That was just let me show that to you here. Oops. That's how it's written. That's how it looks. let's just read the screen while we play the drag steps. I know I'm kind of backwards through here, unfortunately, today, but we'll do it. So just play that measure over and over as you read the notation. Ready, go. Right, drag, drag, drag. Good. So you'll notice it says drag and then in parentheses roughs. Roughs are actually the same sound but changing the sticking. Right, left, right, left. So. And that's again a rudimental drumming thing more. Usually in concert playing, you'll use the drag instead of the rough. Most people can't tell the difference in the sound anyway, but just so you know, that's the terminology there. We will later learn 3-stroke roughs, 4-stroke roughs, 5-stroke roughs, where you are right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, that type of thing. That's part of the course though. And let's start with Dave. What's our first objective? Right?
Improvise rhythm phrases with rudiments.
Which we'll do in just a second.
Learn and demonstrate drags with correct technique.
Which we already did. You can cross one off the list then.
Demonstrate correct travel technique. Play flame exercises on burn 65 with correct technique.
Yeah, and that's a tricky one. We'll get to that later. And then?
Learn expectations for Whiteley Etude 3.
Yeah, so our Whiteley Etude is the timpani etude coming up as a performance test next Monday. So what I want to do today is just kind of play through it for you, let you ask questions, make sure you know exactly what I'm going to be looking for, and let me mention a few things that people tend to mess up on a little bit on that. We have, I want you to know now, 3 places you can practice timpani. In here, in there, and then the storage room directly next to this has the timpani that used to be in here. It says you have to ask Mr. Jantz. He's already given permission. You guys can practice. Okay? So you are the only ones that should be practicing there, in there, however.
How do we get there?
It's directly next to this room. Go out that door and turn right.
Oh.
It's a storage room directly next to it. And there are 2 timpani in it, and if you can't set it to these exact pitches on those timpani, just get it close. But on these you can. I made sure and retune those after class last time, so now they can get the pitches we need. Yes?
Will tuning it be part of the...
Yes, tuning it is part of the exam. Make sure you practice that. So, and I will be looking for you to do exactly this. This is the procedure. Get a pitch, either from your phone or the piano, hum it, start all the tension off, strike it, and then push the tension on until it's there. So it'll sound like this. Or ding, oh, boom, 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 boom. Yep, that's good. Next one. Dum, ha, boom, dum, 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 dum. And you can do it that quick once you get used to it. Okay, if you don't do that, if you just start with like hitting it over and over and try and go up and down, up, it takes forever to tune. We'll be here half the day waiting for you to tune. But if you do that process and practice that process and get used to it, it will actually happen pretty quickly. And I'm not going to like put a tuner on your performance and see, oh, is it 4 cents off? No. You know, as long as it sounds like the note, we'll go on. Now, there is a caveat. If you're a half step off, or even probably a quarter step off, I would mark off. But, you know, as long as it's pretty close. One thing you probably already noticed is it's hard to hear. Timpani have different overtones than other instruments you're used to. So it's harder at first to tune timpani than it is other things. So I'll be more exact on your final exam, but for this one, just make sure it's close to what you're humming. And if it's way off, I'll probably just help you correct it at this point. Okay? Especially for ladies, since your voices aren't in that range. You have to transpose the octave in your mind. It's a little harder sometimes for ladies at first on that too. And for your students, whose voices haven't changed, if they're in junior high or middle school. Before we go on, I need to remember to take your practice time. So Jennifer, thank you. All right, Aaron.
0.
Oh no! Molly.
3:15.
3:15s. William.
1:30.
Okay. Carr.
1 hour, 2:30.
160, 230. Dave.
2:30s.
Joanna.
3:30.
And Amanda.
3:30.
All right. So I've been trying to, as some of you have practiced more or less, or have an hour instead of a half hour, I've been trying to kind of plug those into spots and adjust grades as we go here. to the best way that I feel is equitable. But we do still have to follow the directions and, as far as the amount of times and the how much time and all those things. But I'm doing the best I can to help you along, because I know all of you are very busy, and this is not your primary instrument, not even your secondary instrument. So we do the best we can. Okay, let's go on to then improvise with rudiments. So a fun activity, once they're used, your students are used to improvising with rhythms, is to put rudiments into that process. And we're going to cut all the syllables out at this point, because we're going to focus on the rudiments. So it'll be easier. First of all, let's do rudiments that keep the same basic rhythmic structure. So let's just put flams in this first time, and let's make it really simple. We're going to go 4 beats in duple meter, and we're going to put flams in there some way. So let's just do some call and response. Here's your tempo. I'll give you a 4 macro beat pattern of some kind of rhythm combination in duple meter with flams, and you echo it. Ready, listen.
You did the singing.
I changed from flams to flam taps. Yep. And so you're watching my sticking as well as listening to the sound. Everybody understand? Okay. Let's just go around the circle and do call and response one at a time like we did with our rhythm patterns. And let's start with Aaron today, then we'll go around this way and end with Jennifer. No, we'll end with Dave. Go ahead and begin when you're ready. Okay, now stop.
Sorry.
That was the correct pattern. What did she change?
Added.
She added the flame.
What musically did she change?
She went to 3/4.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It was still a 4-beat pattern. She slowed the tempo way down. Okay,
Sorry.
so let's keep our tempo going. And as you're thinking of the pattern, take that into account. Because when you're improvising, you try to stay in the context. And rhythmically, that means stay in the meter and in the tempo. Now, if we were practicing speeding up and slowing down, that'd be different. But for right now, let's keep steady tempo. So do that same pattern, but use this macro beat. Ja-da, ja-da, ready, go. Rest.
Oh, you do the tempo again.
Now, did you intentionally do drags? Okay, we were on flams, but that's all right. Go ahead and keep going, Carl. She's getting creative on us here. And by the way, sorry. If something like that happens, I just say, "Wow, you're getting ahead of us. You're already on to drags. Try flams." You know, if it matters. You know. So right now, I'm specifically focusing on flams with you guys. So in that case, I'd probably I'd let it go. But you know, if it mattered. All right, go ahead, Karen.
Oh.
Yeah, so that'd be like do, let's see, what would that be? Do, or something like that.
I was trying to do
You're getting 30 seconds in there, yeah.
trying to do a triplet.
Oh, you're trying to
With a
triple?
drag at the
Okay.
beginning.
Yeah, and again, I said duple meter, so for this point, stick,
Oh, okay.
that would be what? Combined meter, right,
Yes.
which we will practice as well. And this is a great way to see, by specifying exact things like that and not just leaving it open-ended, you make people think about those things and you talk about them. And people come up with something cool, but it's a little outside, so you say, "Oh, that was awesome." But you weren't in one. try it again. And so it just turns into a fun teaching moment that way. Okay, let's go on. Let's see. Let's get back to this screen here. So we already learned drags. Let's go on to our triangle. So triangle is one of those instruments you probably played since you were an itty-bitty little kid in some fashion or another. And definitely if you had elementary music or early childhood music at some point. But those triangles and this triangle are a little bit different. So you can buy triangles from about $5. They tend to just be little bars of steel that kind of sound clangy. But for an instrument you want to buy for your school, it'll be more in the like $40 to $60 range. Not that you can't get cheaper ones, but to get a sound that's big enough and pure and all the things you want for playing over a group especially, you'll want one that costs a little bit more. Now, you'll see here I have a pouch of different size triangle beaters, different diameters, they're all the same length. Let me just demonstrate. So here would be the smallest one. And I'm playing pretty good on that, but that is just tiny, tiny, tiny sound. All the way up to this. And you can see this professional triangle can get really loud. It's meant to be able to play over a whole group. If you're rolling, it really fills up a hall. So that's one of the differences. The other ones won't have that real vibrant ring. They'll just be more of a clang, and then they won't have nearly that amount of sound that you can get out of them. So I usually pick something kind of in the middle for playing, and there's a couple things you want to think about. First of all, yes, you can play it clipped onto a stand, but when you do that, it's down below the people's head level, and it masks the sound. So in the case where you're switching back and forth between things quickly, put your stand up high and do that. But whenever possible, take the clip off, put the back on your thumb, the front on your third finger, and then hold it with your second finger. Okay? So once again, you're making a platform with your thumb and your third finger, and then clamping it down with your pointer finger. That will let you be in position to dampen it. So you can play notes and rests, giving you a lot more rhythmic complexity ability like that. Okay? The clips are designed so that you can hold them this way and you can use your fingers to dampen. There's basically only two things with the technique to think about. You're going to hold your triangle beater. Yes, they call it a beater. I'm gonna let that one slide. Hopefully your students don't take that one literally. So your triangle beater will be held like a timpani mallet, thumbs up position, and played across the bottom crossbar like this. Now you'll notice I'm playing kind of at a 45-degree angle here. If I played straight down on it, completely different tone, or straight this way. Another tone yet, or out here. It's like a pure one pitch. If you play this cross 45-degree angle, it gets a very wide range of overtones. And you may say, well, I like this sound right here. Okay, fine, but it's going to be softer and it won't project very well over a group. But you may ask your students to do that for a soft, just really delicate triangle solo. Say, all right, on this one, play it on the outside part. But typically, you play it down here, and you control dynamics by the size of triangle beater that you have. So if it's mainly a soft passage, grab a little thin one. If it's mainly loud, grab a bigger, thick one. Okay. The second part to the technique is the roll. Roll can be played in this corner away from the opening by just going back and forth. Or it can be played, if you want a really loud roll, you can do a whole triangle roll. I'm just kind of going around and around in a circle. So I'm going to have everybody come up one at a time. Put it in your hand correctly. Show me a thumbs up hand position, striking at a 45 on the bottom crossbar, and then show me the two kinds of rolls. Got it? Here you go.
I'm assuming I actually hold it with my left hand.
Yeah, play with your dominant hand. Hold it with your offhand. And again, yeah. So.
I hate having small hands.
Yeah, you're fine. That's it. And if you want to play around with notes and rest too, that you can do that. Yeah, that's it. and just be ready to come right on up. We'll go right down the row here. Yeah, cool. Not complex. Your kids can get it in one day, and if they play it right, they can sound as good as a professional. Now, once again, the quality of the sound will a lot depend on whether you get a professional one or a toy one, basically. And the extra $20, $30 for a good one, to me, is way worth it over a matter of 50 years or whatever it's going to last.
I love the Bernstein video, you've seen it? Dun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was a rule though.
So sometimes I'll just say that reminds me. Sometimes you'll actually like get 2 clips and hang it from a stand and use 2 hands and play really complicated rhythms and stuff on them. But most of the stuff you can do just by doing this and using one hand. Yeah. But when you get into some of the, especially 20th century orchestral stuff, they get creative with all that. 21st century now. So you're backwards.
Typewriter. What's that? Aaron, what's that?
There you go.
The piece for typewriter.
Good.
And
Oh, yeah.
Turn around. There you go. Show everybody. Good.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to be the typewriter for that.
Yeah.
That's it.
I wonder if you'd actually have to know how to use it. You just like click
Yeah,
away.
it's like, do they get it typewritist or do they get it original?
Typewritist.
Yeah. So if you think of the clip as an arrow, point the arrow away from you when you play it. That's how I have it set up. And now.
It's heavy.
Yeah, that particular model is.
Does it matter how you hold it in this hand?
Yeah, just hold it like a timpani mount. Yep, you got it. Good. All right, you have all mastered the triangle. You can now go into the university band or orchestra, and as long as you can count rhythms and rest, be the star triangle player. What Dr. Turner used to say is, the triangle player can makes just as much as the tuba player or well, probably not principal violin, but a lot of the other violin. For those 16 notes they play in 60 minutes, they make the same exact amount. So
Now,
not a bad thing.
in an actual orchestra, would someone literally just be playing the triangle, or would they be going back and forth?
One at a time. They'd be in charge of all the percussion instruments that they could play at once usually.
Okay.
So there's a timpanist, there's usually somebody who's specializes in snare, somebody who specializes in mallets, and then somebody who, and then they all can play the traps. But you know, in a lot of modern pieces there'll be 4 percussionists, timpani, snare, mallets, maybe, and then they'll bring in people as needed to fill in the parts. And then somebody that plays kind of the rest of the traps. So your principal percussionist is your snare drummer, your other principal is your timpanist. They're kind of considered a separate thing in the orchestral world. And then everybody can play everything, but you specialize on one or the other. So, yeah. Okay, well, let's put that away, and let's get out our Burns book.
Talk, Jennifer.
So last time we finished right before the end of where I wanted to get to. Since we have a couple of minutes extra here today, let's go ahead and pick it up on page 63. I know it wasn't up on the class agenda there, but sometimes you improvise. All right, so we were saying rhythms for these and then playing them. Let's go ahead and do the bottom 3 together. And somebody tell me what are, especially if you're talking about the percussion instruments that don't keep a sound going, that don't prolong their sound. What is one big benefit of having your students speak the rhythms in the rhythm patterns, either while they play or before they play, or some of them?
What was the first part of what you said? I'm sorry.
So especially for instruments like snare drum, where the sound just stops immediately, What's one of the real benefits of having students speak rhythms?
They can use their voice to hold out.
Right. So your voice makes the duration. Just and other than that, it's just they're focusing on the beginning of when the note starts, but never on kind of the continuation of it. All right. So let's say line 5. First of all, using Gordon's syllables and terminology, what meter would this be in?
Triple.
Triple meter, because you're what?
Because you, whoa. I mean,
Why is it a triple?
Three subdivisions rather than
Because
three
you're
micro
dividing
rather
the
than-
beat into
right.
3. Yep. As opposed to thinking at the measure level and saying there's 2 beats a measure, that would be a traditional theory way of thinking about the term duple. Remember with Gordon, the term means how you're dividing the beats because it's pre-notation and then applied to notation. All right, let's go ahead and say this one. So we're going to use what syllables for our 8th notes?
Dude.
Do-da-dee, because they're the what function? Microbeats. What other functions do you see in this line?
Rests.
Rest and
Elongations.
elongation, which would come in measure 3 and 4. Good. You guys got it. Ready and play. I'm sorry, we're going to say it first. Ready and say. Do-da-dee-do, dee-do-da-dee-do, dee-do-da-dee-do, dee-do-da-dee-do. Yeah, and make sure when they're saying it that they put a silence on the rest of their voice. Some of us kind of bled over into that rest. All right, now let's play it. Ready and go. Good, easy enough. Next line, let's say it and play it simultaneously. Same patterns we just had, right? And notice that one alternate way of sticking that they're showing you here is on those right, left, right. And those elongation patterns, just doing 2 rights and then 2 lefts. And it kind of gives a natural lilt to the feel of it. Ready, line 6, say, and play. Good. Let's say line 7. Let's say it first. Remember when we're doing complicated rest patterns, which you guys isn't that complicated, but when your kids first get this type of thing, it is. When you're doing complicated rest patterns, what's a good sequence to go in?
Say everything.
Say everything, then
Say everything but rest quieter.
yeah, say the rest quiet and everything else out loud, then audiate the rest, then try saying and playing. Okay? So let's just do that, just get used to that process again. Say everything, ready, go. Do-da-dee, do-da-dee, do-dee-do-dee, do-da-dee, do-da-dee, do-dee-do-dee. I forgot what I told you to do. Okay, now try saying the notes louder and the rest quieter. Ready, go. Do-da-dee, do-da-dee, do-dee, do-dee, do-da-dee, do-da, do-dee, do-dee. Different kind of coordination than you've ever done, isn't it? Let's try that again. But once you do it a few times, the kids get used to it, and it ends up being... the problem with rests is that people think of them as nothing. And this helps them put a motion, a feel, a sensation to them. And then we imagine the sensation. You can't imagine what you can't do a lot of times, especially when it involves motion and physical coordination. All right, here we go. 7. Soft and loud. Ready, go. Do-da-dee, do-da-dee, do-dee, do-dee, do-da, do-da, do-dee, do-dee. Now just audiate the rest. Imagine the syllable, but don't say it out loud. Ready, go. Da-dee, da-dee, do-dee, do-dee, do-da, do-da, do-dee, do-dee. Say and play. That makes sense? And I will just tell you that process is something I came to over time that really, really, really helps rhythm problems. That's the most effective thing I've found. Starting with just feeling the meter and doing the motion, saying the syllables, and then when there's rest patterns that are especially tricky for them, going through that process. Okay, so we've learned lines 1 and 2. What's the difference? Yeah, we're alternating on line 1. We're doing two in a row on line 2 as far as your right flams and your left flams. Let's play both of those lines straight through. Do, ready, play. Line 2. Yeah, so that one, we're not used to practicing it that way. line 2, and go. Yeah, that's it. Now, flam accents we'll learn a little bit later. Let's go skip way down to line 6. Here's our flam taps. We learned in 2/4 in a duple meter feel. So right flam right, left flam left. Ready, go. Good. Now skip up to line 4. Let's do flam taps in a 6/8 feel or a triple feel. Do, dee, do, dee. Ready, go. Now, flam accents is one of the hardest coordinations for most people to get. Here we're just alternating right, left, left, in patterns of 3, putting a flam at the beginning of each one. So what people end up wanting to do is they'll do a right flam right instead of a right flam left, because we're used to flam taps. So right flam left, left flam right, right flam left, right. Just read through that slowly and just get used to that coordination. We're on line 3, flam accents. Say it once. Ready and say. Right flam left, right. Left flam right, left. Right flam left, right. Left flam right, left. Now let's very slowly say it and play it. Ready, go. Right flam left, right. Left flam right. Right flam left, right. Left flam right. I suppose I'm having you say it.
Because if I can't say it, I can't do it.
You probably can. But what that does is it really draws students' attention into the sticking. Right now, we're not thinking about rhythms. We're not thinking about hand position as much. I'm trying to focus them into sticking. So it's by making them say the sticking, I'm drawing their attention to the sticking. Because a lot of them will do the sticking wrong and won't even know it otherwise. If you make them say it, then it's like, oh, my mouth said one thing, my hands didn't do it, and they catch themselves that way. All right, now let's do it without saying it. Do-da-dee, do-da-dee. Ready and play. So when you get to flam taps in a couple weeks, you know where to find them, you know how to do it. And I'm going to grab my timpani mallets. Where did I put that? Okay, and I'm going to turn Jennifer around here. Hi, Jennifer. So the rest of you kind of gather around where you can see me. And I'm going to do some playing on your etude and just mention some things to pay attention to as you practice. You have a whole week to practice this. But Monday, bring your recording devices and we'll spend a lot of our class doing our 3rd performance test. All right. For etude number 3, our pitches are C and G. Would somebody give me a C, please? So I will model the tuning procedure here, the way I just described it to you, first of all. So I'm going to start with my C. I'm going to take all the pressure off. Now, if some of you are used to tuning really precisely, which I hope hopefully all of you are, but you'll notice that sometimes the little notches on these things aren't exactly in tune. That's actually what these are for. These are fine tuners. You'd put a tuning knob on these and just adjust it a little one way or the other. We're not going to get that picky on it though. All right? G, please. And why do I have you tuned to the ring instead of the hip? Any ideas?
Because the ring is what's going to last for a while.
It's the pure tone. The hit has percussive sounds, and it also distorts the pitch a little bit right when you hit it, and then it kind of settles in if you look at a tuner on timpani. So it'll go a little sharp or a little flat right when you hit it, and then it'll settle into the actual pitch. So you want to tune to the pure tone. It's a lot easier to hear that way. And I'm going to put this between these two drums since I'm using these two drums. It's a good habit to get into. So here we're doing a lot of rolls, a lot of quarter note and half note rolls. Rolls are what kind on timpani? What kind of rolls do we use?
Single stroke.
Single stroke. So I don't want you to think mechanically in, oh, all rolls are 16th notes. Like we do roll bass on snare drum. It's not like that. It's just roll at a comfortable speed for the right length, then go on. Some people will try to pick a rhythm because they want to be real precise. And you end up getting close to a rhythm, but this is supposed to sound like a held tone than a note. So it's not as much about rhythmic sounds. It's more about sustained pitch as close as we can get it. Now, what did you notice me doing when I played the rolls compared to when I was playing rhythms? Yeah, so they're lower strokes, and again, they're finger control. For me, for you, there'll be a little bit of wiggle with your wrists like that. Make sure they're not this, though. What am I doing wrong here? I have my hands as an extension of my arm straight, because that will not let it bend up and down very much. I want my wrists pushed in, my elbows out, allow that karate chop motion, right? That's the main thing that you guys will most likely mess up on. You'll get to rolls, you'll be doing great like this, then you'll get to rolls and you'll be like that. All right? It's what's natural for people. So it doesn't sound good, it doesn't feel good, but that's what they all do. So think of slow on the rolls, but even, okay? The only other thing I'll say here is I've written in the rights and lefts. I write it in when it's not just what would naturally happen if you're alternating back and forth. So like if you're going to do two rights in a row, and then what hand to start the roll with, things like that. Any questions before we go to our next class here? That make sense? All right. Look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful rest of the week and a wonderful long weekend.